Rob Thomas with Club and Resort Business, and welcome to another episode of the Club and Resort Talks podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Tropitone. Tropitone manufactures beautifully crafted, time-tested outdoor furniture for the world's most luxurious resorts and hotels. Since 1954, Tropitone has been a leader of high-quality outdoor furniture and decor. Products are manufactured to a commercial grade for hospitality, multifamily, and club markets. Tropitone is headquartered in Irvine, California, with bi-coastal manufacturing in Irvine and Sarasota, Florida. Learn more at tropitone.com. We got that taken care of. Let's throw it over to Phil Karen, our senior editor. Phil, how's it going?
I'm doing great, Rob. Doing really well.
Well, hey, I think you might have a little jet lag, right? You just got back
Yes,
from a trip. Tell us about it.
sure. Happy to. Just came back from a visit to Minnesota, Brainerd, Minnesota, actually, about 2 hours north of Minneapolis. We visited Cragun's Resort and Cragun's Legacy Courses. So the resort there in Brainerd, Minnesota, to start with the golf, they have 45 holes of golf right now. They have the Lehman 18. If that sounds familiar, yes, it is indeed Tom Lehman Design Group designed that golf course. Also, there is the Dutch 27 that makes up the rest of that to make the 45 holes. Actually, it's interesting though, it's called Dutch 27, but right now there's only 18 holes of that in play. There's a blue and a white in play right now, and then the red is being finished this fall. I think they're going to do some preview play with it this fall, and then they'll have it open for play to everybody in the spring of next year. So great courses. We had to play. I was there with a media group there. There was a total of 5 of us writers there, and we had a chance to golf both on the Lehman 18 and the Dutch 27 with Eric Peterson. He's a general manager there at Cragun's. Also, let's see, the first day, Jack Wayrow, the director of golf there at the resort, joined us. Second day, we were joined by another pro who I'm sorry, I apologize. We'll get your name here on the crawl. The name's eluding me right now, Rob. Sorry about that. I shouldn't have gone there with that. But fantastic. Both courses outstanding. As I was sharing with you, Rob, before we came on, I'm still kind of fighting this golfer's elbow, so I only took a few swings. Played the par threes the first day and putted on several greens. Only did putting the second day because the elbow was kind of nagging at me, and I'll hopefully figure out what's going on with that. Anyways, though, the resort itself, outstanding place. The other big highlight, in addition to the golf, is they have a beach, long beachfront, lakefront along Gull Lake, which has all kinds of water sports available to people. Of course, fishing, kayaking, paddleboarding, you name it. All kinds of stuff. We had a nice chance to actually the last evening we were there, had a chance to go on a barbecue cruise on a cruise boat that the resort owns now, and that was a lot of fun. And I should also mention, I'll have this in some of the social media. When you enter there in the resort, you get to see statues of good old Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox are there, kind of keeping guard, keeping watch over everything. We even, as a group, took a picture with Paul and Babe there, so we were having fun with that as well. But yeah, it was an excellent visit. One of the afternoons I did take kind of a bike ride around a lot of the area to take a look at the resort more. You know, they do have hotels, lodges, cabins. Some of these cabins, they look like the old time, just a brown cabin, nice, quaint, right there along the lake. Lake is just beautiful. Weather was outstanding. No humidity. I was very impressed with the golf courses and what they have to offer. And one more thing I want to mention real quick with it, Rob. They were there with my visit there. They were leading into the CRMC Championship, the PGA Tour Americas event that's coming up from August 25th through September 1st. They've had the event there before. They're getting the course prepared for it. The golfers will play on the Dutch 27. And interesting is we had some conversations, though, about, well, what's the once they finish that third 9 on Dutch to make it 27, which combination will be used for the tournament in the future. And they said that's still kind of up in the air. But the courses look excellent. The resort is wonderful. They've got all kinds of things for people to do, biking and hiking. I didn't even get to mention that. Any outdoor sport, pickleball, of course, is there too. Anything you can think of to do outdoors uh, is offered to you there. You don't have to be a golfer, but if you love to golf, it's a great place to do that as well, and highly recommended. So I also want to make sure I thank General Manager Eric Peterson, Marketing Manager Kerry Scarfino, and again, I mentioned him before, Director of Golf Jack Wayrow, for spending time with us and giving us great hospitality and an excellent visit.
All right, fantastic. That's going to be in our September issue, so keep an eye out
Yes.
for that. In the meantime, check Phil's social at Karen_Phil for
Mm-hmm.
some social media stuff from there. Terrific. Beyond that, what are you seeing in the news? I know you've been pretty preoccupied this week, but maybe you had a chance to catch up.
I did today. Today I had a chance to catch up after I was there in Minnesota. And yeah, I'm glad, real quick, as you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned that, yes, that there will be a story on Craigan's coming up here in our September issue. Look forward to that. So I thought, though, I'd stay on the resort theme this week. I did see a pretty big story here. $115 million renovation uh, is near completion for the Hyatt Regency Scottsdale Resort and Spa at Gainey Ranch. And they're going to actually rebrand it as Grand Hyatt Scottsdale Resort there in Arizona. And as I understand it, as this renovation concludes, this will be the debut of the first Grand Hyatt hotel in Arizona. Pretty exciting. They're going to have, as I understand it, 6 new restaurants, includes an Italian chop house, Southwestern Grill, 2 different poolside concepts there as well. There's also going to be new ballroom space, as well as all 496 rooms, as I understand it, are going to be renovated, which will include 18 luxury private casitas and a 2-story Gainey house with a private entrance, driveway, and patio. They've all been renovated. That part of it expected to be open in early October. Looks like they had a group called International Architectural Firm WATG and Phoenix-based Hale Collective were responsible for putting together the new design for this project. Looks great for the folks in Arizona. Exciting. First Grand Hyatt hotel there in Arizona.
Terrific. I can't wait to see it. Everything down there is beautiful. Obviously leaning toward the Southwest motif, and looking forward to seeing what's going on down there.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks exciting. Looks like a terrific project for them out there. And I'm staying out west this time, though. Sorry, no Florida again this week. We got. I'm going to stay out west. We're going to look at California, the Silverado Resort in Napa, California. Well, they're getting ready to host the PGA Tour's Napa tournament, which has been renamed the Procore Championship, and that's kicks off the FedEx Cup fall season, happening here coming up in mid-September. But the article really that we shared this week on clubresortbusiness.com kind of focused on a lot of the work that's been happening there over the last couple of years. They've been doing a lot of work. They have introduced 130 new E-Z-Go golf carts. They've also done a $1.5 million investment in turf maintenance equipment that includes fairway mowers, greens mowers, precision GPS sprayers, also some different utility vehicles to help ensure top rate course conditions there. There's also been upgrades of the cart paths. The 9.8 miles of asphalt cart paths were converted to concrete, and 1.3 miles of service roads were also repaved as well. So that's going to help the accessibility and longevity of that house. And then also an upgraded driving range as well, expanded from 27,000 square feet to 36,000 square feet. So very big expansion there. They also have 20 new Turf Hound artificial turf hitting surfaces and a rebuilt practice bunker. That's a great idea. So obviously that's going to enhance usability during adverse weather times and everything. And finally, some bridge and pond improvements happening there as well. Ponds have been cleaned and maintained with some new aeration systems to ensure optimal water quality. So a lot of good stuff happening at that resort as well. Um, they'll have, it looks like, Rob, they'll have a lot to show off there at the tournament when that happens next month.
Seems like infrastructure is the main goal there, obviously
Mm-hmm.
solidifying that for the amount it takes to host a PGA Tour event. Uh, Regular old golfers like you and I might not recognize a lot of that stuff, but I'm sure the PGA Tour and the powers that be will appreciate all the internal upgrades they've made at that property. It's going to be terrific.
Yeah, it should be. And it, like you said, a lot of stuff focused on infrastructure there, and obviously it's a lot of stuff that's going to, um, I'm sure, was all done very well, and it's obviously going to have a long term impact on continuing to make sure the resort hosts plenty of guests.
Well, speaking of done very well, our friends at Troon, they're massive, obviously, all over the country and internationally. They have named their coach of the year, and it is Mo Gesualdi, Coach Mo, she goes by. I had a chance to sit down and interview her. Her energy is off the charts. Love her energy. She just exudes positivity. She talks a little bit about what it takes to coach not only young kids who are exceptional golfers, but beginners, adults. She went through some trauma. She was a terrific young golfer in her own right. Played college golf and then gave up the sport a little bit before she came back to it and dedicated her life to it. Coach Mo. So I look forward to sharing my interview with you, Phil, and the rest of our audience. In the meantime, make sure you're checking out clubresortbusiness.com for all the news. Hello, and welcome back to the Club and Resort Talks podcast. I'm joined by Monique Gesualdi. Boy, I almost butchered it. All right,
You got
PGA,
it.
LPGA Director of Instruction at St. John's Golf and Country Club in St. Augustine, Florida. Coach Mo, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Rob, for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming, joining us. Let's kick it off right away. You're the 2024 Troon Coach of the Year. Big deal because there's a lot of coaches within the Troon umbrella. Talk a little bit about that.
It was a major shock to me. I am on the player development team with Steve Loescher and Tim Mahoney, and they had scheduled a Zoom call with me to catch up. And so I just thought it was going to be the two of them plus myself on this call talking about player development. And I get on the Zoom call one day, and there's like all these guys from Tune on there, and they're just saying all these really nice things. And I was just like, not sure I was in the right place because I was like, wait, my meeting starts at 10. Like, why are all these people here? So I was just in complete shock. And they got through talking and they were like, explaining the award. And then they were like, and we'd like to congratulate you with the award. And I was just like, I'm pretty sure if someone had a picture of my face, I was just like, it was a moment that I just was not ready for. But it's still, I don't even know if it's really sunk in yet, but it's just been kind of cool because I know who won the year before, Joe Hallett. He's a Furman alum, and I've had him on my podcast, and he is just such an incredible instructor. He's the 2024 PGA Coach of the Year, and so just to follow in the footsteps of someone like a Joe Hallett, that means a lot to me.
Well, congratulations. It's a big deal, obviously, and you're in some good company.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the team at Troom just helping me develop to get to that point has been incredible. Steve Loescher deserves the biggest shout out there is. He is ahead of player development here, and he has just really helped me and guided me along with not just instruction and coaching, but creating plans and how to improve not just myself, but my other instructors here at St. John's. So he is just a huge asset to Troon and myself and all the other coaches out there.
Well, Coach Mo, you had a successful junior career growing up. Talk about some of your cherished moments growing up within golf.
Wow. Junior golf was really pivotal for my growth and development into even my career now. I mean, I was just so passionate about golf. And I'm originally from Connecticut, and we slowly made our way down to Florida. And, the environment here to train is amazing. And I actually went to high school right down the road at Nice, where I'm working now. So kind of made a full circle back. But junior golf here, I trained at a golf academy just like I'm running now, and just really worked on channeling my competitiveness. I played a lot of other sports before golf, and I really kind of grabbed hold of golf just because of how challenging it was. I thought it was so challenging, and I just wanted to improve at it. And so I worked really, really, really hard at my game, and that, got me to an elevated junior level. And I would say the two kind of most important wins were at the Women's Western Junior. I won that before going into my junior year, and then before going into my senior year of high school, and then that was considered a major, and so that really opened the doors, bumped me up into the top 20 in the rankings nationally as a junior, and then I ended up after that tournament getting 7 full ride offers to Division I colleges. So that was probably one of my biggest moments as a junior golfer, I would say.
Yeah, full ride in the golf world is a huge deal because they get a lot of partial scholarships in golf, obviously.
Yeah, it's changed now. It seems like for the kids now, they try to squeeze out as much academic money as possible, and then they'll fill it in with athletic money. But back when I was competing, I was on a full athletic scholarship. So I don't know that they even do that now, but what's been great is the growth of the game, and especially for girls and women's golf. And so just to see so many more girls like at our academy and these girls practicing, it's really cool to see. But within that, it's made it so much more competitive for the girls to get scholarships. So, I just encourage them to really figure out early on if that's something they're interested in, and work really, really hard at it. And, one day they could maybe get their education paid for fully or partially through the game of golf, which is, nowadays as expensive colleges, that's huge.
Yeah, no kidding. I got two kids in college, so I know how expensive it can be.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So now you've dealt with some health obstacles in the past. How have those challenges kind of shaped the way you coach these days?
Health challenges is definitely putting it lightly. I'm really glad to be on the other side of that, but it really makes you see what is important in life. It makes you see that time is of the essence. And, I was young, 26, when I was diagnosed with some fatal illnesses, which I've obviously, came out on the other side of that. But at that age, you're mid-20s, you're out of college, you're kind of trying to figure out who you are, what you're going to do. I was a little lost before I got sick. And I think after I got sick, it took me 2 full years to really kind of get back on my feet again. Cause, I had liver transplant and 2 brain surgeries for a fungal infection in my brain. So it was not a light recovery. It took all of 2 years. And, at that point, I had no expectations. Nobody even thought I was going to survive. So I think eliminating those expectations and just trying to do the best I could every day is what led me to here. And it's a great metaphor for the kids, or, anybody who's trying to pursue something in life, because, you have all these, big plans and dreams that you want to accomplish. But in order to achieve them, it's literally just taking one little step each day and consistently doing it. And so that's all I try to do. I don't think I've done anything miraculous. I'm not super talented in anything, but I'm consistent and I'm committed.
26, you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, right? So it's had to be a real shock to your system all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. So I think I grew up a lot, but then at the same time, it's made me feel really young too. Like I really appreciate life. I have a lot of fun. I'm like a little kid inside. So it's that balance between, yeah, you're focused and you have all the, insight, what you want to do. But at the same time, I really embrace that playfulness, and like a kid, I really just try to enjoy every day that I'm allowed to be here.
So, so I put it lightly when I said challenges, obviously. You obviously, the kids that you're teaching now, or any of the people that you're teaching now, face challenges. What are some of the challenges you've seen them deal with, and how have you overcome those challenges with your students?
Yeah, and I think, juniors training for college and adults maybe are just trying to compete to play better. They're looking at golf differently. I think the kids have an enormous amount of pressure that they're dealt with, that they're challenged with. Sometimes it does come from outside sources like the parents, but a lot of times I'm seeing these kids are putting their own pressure on themselves. And so just really trying to, before we can even get to the golf, we've got to make sure like the human is good and make sure that their mindset is in a good place and they're ready to really work on things. Because if they're just constantly stressed and anxiety and this, it really makes the golf improvement part really challenging. So as I've developed as a coach too, it's really having a strong emotional intelligence, understand who's in front of you, what they're feeling before they, arrive at the tee. And you can't just dive into the swing and the technique if the person in front of you is dealing with something. So, talking through stuff with my juniors, I work with them, regularly. I see them, several days a week for years. So with that, we build a relationship. And so we're better able to understand and have that communication versus, someone who just pops in for an hour lesson here and there. At that point, you're more so just working on trying to help them with their goal that day. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but I would say, understanding who's in front of you and what they're dealing with, especially the kids nowadays, they're so hard on themselves. I wish they would just kind of ease up a little.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I've got athletes that are very, very difficult to deal with, unfortunately,
Yeah.
mentally inside, right?
Yeah.
So, you touched upon it a little bit with your last statement, but I'm gonna kind of like bring this full circle again. There's a million things you can be doing right now, right? You get out of college, you're a successful student, athlete. You could have done 10 different things, 1,000 different things. What got you
Sure.
into coaching initially, and how has your philosophy changed as you've kind of grown up in the industry?
Yeah, so my path was not as clear and direct as maybe some people are when they graduate. I was actually pretty burnt out from college golf. My whole life I dedicated to golf. And so I wanted to I hung the clubs up and was like, I'm going to try to figure out who I am and what life's about without golf. And it took me a while to figure out that I really missed it. Like golf was such a huge part and still is a part of like who I am and what I do. And so I didn't dive right into coaching after. I got into coaching after I got sick, and I was like, wow, I have a second chance at this. I want to take it and do the best I can. And so, coaching wasn't necessarily on the radar first. Just getting my health back, and kind of like I said, it was one step at a time, and it just kind of led to this point. Like I would go to these kind of old guys that I was friends with in my community would, when I was sick, would take me to play scrambles with them. So I would go play, and then I started playing more. And then I was like working a camp for the first tee. And then, they asked me to come into the golf shop, and then it just one thing kind of led to the next. And so I didn't know I was going to end up here, but I'm very happy that I have. And I honestly don't know exactly what the future looks like. I think I've been blessed with a mindset that embraces change and adaptability. And so I just try to work as hard as I can. And then whatever opportunities present themselves, that's what it turns into. But to fully answer your question, I had no idea I was going to be here when I graduated college.
Well, I think Rascal Flatts said it straight best when they said, "God bless the broken road that led me straight to you," right?
Yes. Oh my God. That is exactly, I feel like my life. So
Yeah, broken roads are a wonderful thing. You talk about holistic coaching. Can you
Mhm.
talk about some of the like the non-swing aspects of your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, and so I know what I do well, and then I outsource a lot. So I am great at teaching technique and coaching the golf swing and the game and scoring. When it comes to, how the body moves, I can understand it. I'm TPI certified, but I'm not a doctor of physiology or physical therapy or anything like that. So I bring on a team. So I have a team of Dr. Greg. He's at Movement Driven. So when my kids are experiencing, setbacks, like we're working on the same swing change and they're just not getting it, at that point, maybe it's a physical issue. Or sometimes you run into, they're having really challenges on the course in tournament settings under pressure. So it's a mental issue. So then I reach out to Dawn Woodard at Judgment Matters, who is our mental performance coach. I also have a registered dietitian because some of the kids, they're working on their swing, we're working on their mental. And then you find out they're at a tournament and they haven't eaten for 14 holes and you see their score tank. And so it's just like you start, as you work with a player a lot, you start to uncover different aspects of the game that might not be as strong. And so the holistic approach is basically trying to manage the whole person and player. So their physical, their mental, their emotional, their on-course strategy, their clubs, selection, their their equipment. I mean, you're just looking at everything and just trying to figure out what piece is doing well, and then what are areas we might need to shift our attention to.
So there's an old adage in the NBA that great players don't make great coaches. They can't relate to the rank and file NBA players. You were a high level player growing up, and obviously through college. How do you relate to someone who's just not necessarily overly talented, but really wants to become better at golf?
Yeah. And I think, being a player, it helps you understand, but you're right. Just because you're a good player doesn't mean you're going to be a great coach. And just because there's great coaches out there, maybe who aren't the best of players. So they're two totally different things. But I think what you can lean into is your experiences as a player, what you went through. And so like when the kids are, tied for the lead on the final hole going into the last tournament, I know what that felt like. And so at that point in time when you're a kid and you're a teenager and your frontal lobe's not developed, like you're reacting. And so as you grow up and you get mature, or you hopefully gain some maturity, you start being able to kind of pull back and slow down and make better decisions. But I think what it is you're just able to relate to them. And at that point, I mean, they still have to experience things to learn from them. So as a coach, you're just trying to guide them through them. You're not protecting them from the losses. You're not able to shelter them. And, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to lose tournaments. They're going to have bad rounds. And so you're just kind of supposed to be there when they do have those and they're ready to talk through it. How do we work through? How do I improve on that? I think that's what you do as a coach, and you can relate to them.
I want you to give a little plug to the Coach Mo podcast. What kind of topics do you discuss? Who's on the podcast? What kind of stuff we got going on Coach Mo podcast?
That's a great question. So the podcast has evolved, and I initially kind of started it because, like I'm running into issues as a coach, and a lot of times, like over the past few years, just like trying to help the parents too. So like nowadays you've got to help coach the parents, because if they're involved in this process, there's a lot to understand and go through. And whether it's dad plays golf or mom and dad don't know anything about golf, there's kind of a lot to learn. And so the podcast was initially just like advice for players and for parents from people who have been successful in the field. So I tend to bring on players, coaches, professionals in the industry, somehow that it might help somebody who's listening with their golf game understand. So there's a lot about junior golf development on there. But I've got some stuff that really resonates with amateur adult women too. So just trying to help the listeners, get advice from someone besides me, because, when you start coaching and you have kids for a really long time, I think sometimes you start to sound like a parent, like they're like, Coach Mo always says that, they tune you out. And so I'm like, if I can bring in these other professionals, who are really, they've got a name for themselves, or they've been successful, or they played at a high level and they say it, maybe the kids and the parents will understand and appreciate it and try to implement some of those things they're saying. So I'm excited about season 3. We're going to be starting that up soon. So probably in the next month, you'll see our season 3 first episode kickoff.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
on the daily, you're giving advice to your students. What advice would you give to a fellow instructor? Maybe someone who's coming up through the ranks right now, or someone who's been around for a long time. What advice would you give to your colleagues?
That I would say you've got to be humble and you've got to be really eager to learn and grow. So I think one of the biggest roadblocks I see is coaches get complacent and they get in their comfort zone, and the way they do things is the way they do things. And they, it does work, but coaching and instruction, just like anything else, it's constantly evolving, new technologies being introduced. So like on a day-to-day basis, you've got to kind of stay on your toes and learn about what is new and out there, and decipher whether it's advantageous to implement it into your coaching, or there's also a lot of noise out there, and a lot of stuff where they're trying to grab your attention, but it might not be necessarily good to your coaching. So I would say you need to have a strong mentor, someone who's been through the process and been successful that you can lean on, and then just constantly be not trying new things. Stay true to who you are, but don't get stuck where you might be missing out on some new coaching opportunities because you're so like rigid in the way you're coaching. So I would say flexibility, adaptability, and an open mind are really huge to being a good coach.
So I'll get you out on this one. I always ask my guests to take out your crystal ball. Look 5 years down the line,
Okay.
10 years down the road, right? So you got it. It's in your hands. What excites you about the future of golf? And what are you seeing maybe as the evolution of teaching?
Those are good questions. I think what excites me is there's a lot more girls getting into golf, and it's a lot more welcoming and accepting. When I was a kid growing up, I I was an athlete, and my family, they're all athletes, but I was the only girl playing in golf tournaments. A lot of times, unless you're traveling really, really far out of state to a big tournament, you're the only girl. And I competed against the boys a lot. And I think in one way that made me a good competitor. But at the same time, like I think girls love that community and the social aspect. So I really love seeing like all the girls playing, but even more so like the women. Like I joined Ladies Executive Golf Society. It's called Legs, and that is a group of women professionals of all different careers who are brought together through the game of golf. And these ladies, some are beginners, some have never touched a club. But I think there's like 200 or 300 ladies in the Jacksonville chapter, and they have chapters all throughout the country. So I just think it's so cool that the girls and the ladies are finding a place on the golf course. And that just brings so much more opportunity to grow the game. And so kind of to answer your full question, like I'm excited about the growth of the game, like just how many kids of different ages and skill levels are getting into it. It's a way to be competitive, but it's a way to bring the whole family together. And you don't have to be good or amazing, but you just have to be able to give it a try. And I think the courses have understood that, and they're a lot more welcoming, which is really cool to see. So 10 years down the road, I don't even know that my brain can kind of open that up with all the technology. I think there's probably going to be a lot of AI stuff that's going to be crazy that we don't even kind of understand or appreciate at this point. I don't know how that's going to change for us coaches, but I think just seeing it continue to grow and develop, and know that there's just going to be, a lot more opportunities for people to play to me, I think, really cool.
I was just at Nemacolin, and their golf instruction, they have like this thing that hooks up to the brain, or they just wear it like a little hat or visor
Yeah.
almost, and it measures your brain waves as you're going through the thought process. So you're talking about AI and all this stuff. Future is crazy, right?
Yes, I've experienced some of those things where they put it on your head, or there's one where it's playing music. And if you're able to kind of quiet your mind, it plays music. But if you start thinking intrusive thoughts, the music shuts off. So you're getting like feedback on how to train your brain. So I've done a couple of or I've tried a few of those kind of things, and it's just crazy what the technology can do. And so I think you can really go down some deep, dark rabbit holes with golf and instruction, especially like YouTube. Like I have so many clients who come to me and they're like, they've never talked to like a real coach, but they are just so invested in YouTube golf. And then they're coming to me all jacked up because they don't have any, they watched the wrong video for their swinging game. And so there's so many cool things about technology that can help you. But if you kind of go down the wrong rabbit hole, you can get stuck. So I think it's always good to kind of check in with a golf coach or instructor, just like you would a doctor. Dr. Greg and I were talking about this yesterday. Like, you know, you've got your yearly dental appointment, you've got your yearly, you know, you go get your blood work done, you do all these things to check. And golf instruction, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to see someone every week to be good, but maybe get that check in, get a little direction and clarity, and then you're going off in the right direction instead of like a deep, dark YouTube rabbit hole.
Yeah, the rabbit hole. My wife knows all about Dr. Google when she's diagnosed with a million different things.
Oh yeah. So it's good. It's, you know, it can be really good, or you can, you know, go on too strong on the other side of it. So you're just trying to find some good balance.
All right, Coach Mo, I love your energy. Where can people find out more about the podcast and maybe get in contact with you?
Probably my website has everything, www.coachmogolfpro.com. And then my Instagram handle is Coach Mo Golf Pro. So those are probably my two most active, you know, or social media. That's my most active social media, but my website at least directs you or gives you the link to everything else. So I would say that's the main hub to check out.
Love it. Thank you, Coach Mo, for joining us.
Thanks, Rob. It's been awesome. Appreciate it.